Pipe Network presents.
On this episode of Season 4, Let's Talk.
Welcome to Monster RX 93.1, and of course, your favorite, as requested by our lovely host here today. He wants me to do this.
Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of the Rajiv Show. And my guest today, surprisingly, is one of the person that I met from TikTok. I know I've met a lot of people from Facebook. Majority of my guests are from Facebook, Instagram, and sometimes I find them from very, very weird places. And this is the first time I've actually reached out to a guest from TikTok. And of course, a little bit of background on how I met her. When I joined TikTok, for those who supported me, I had to voluntarily jump into the pit of fire called TikTok. And then uh, on my algorithm, my home screen, I saw a cute lady who happened to do a request by some of her fans to do draw or something, and I said I did it wrong, but I'm gonna ask her, of course, as an opening. She's gonna come in with that opening sweet draw. Don't worry. And that's how I met her, and then I followed her account, and then I followed her live, and I reached out to her, and then here we are in the pre-recording. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause. We need a round of applause for Ramirez. I hope I didn't butcher the name. Hey girl, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You know what? Since you asked me, since you already told all your listeners that I have to, come in with that weird sound that I made in that TikTok that you first saw of me, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. What's up, guys? Welcome. Thank you so much for having me, Rajiv.
It's a huge honor. I'm shaking in my boots, even though I'm wearing slippers, but I'm seriously shaking in my boots having this conversation with you. It's a huge honor. It's a huge
Oh my
honor.
God. It's a huge honor for me to be here. It's actually the first podcast I've ever been invited to, so this is definitely a milestone, and it's an honor that it's your show that my first quote unquote guesting is on.
Now my heart is melting. No, what's my script? Just kidding. So, could you give a little bit of background aside from the grand opening that I've mentioned to my listeners as
Okay, hey guys, what's up? Yeah, my name is Ria Ramirez, but a lot of people may know me as Ria Ramz because that's my name on social media. Everywhere, I'm Ria Ramz. So you can call me either. I am 23 years old. I'm turning 24 this year. I graduated from UP Diliman. I studied speech communications, and I was a tennis player in college as well. What else? Oh, right now I'm a radio DJ at Monster RX 93.1. I do host a little bit on the side. I do some content creation every so often as well. And yeah, that's pretty much like the basic information that you could find about me or you could know about me.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. I want to unbox a lot more about your personality, but in order to
All
do
right.
so, I want to take our conversation back into high school. I hope you don't mind. Let's take a time travel
Okay.
and let's go back to high school. If you and I were classmates in high school, who were you in high school? Are you the person at the back of the class, the introverted? I don't assume that you are an introverted type. Granted that you've really granded up your entrance. You came in guns blazing. But coming back to the question, if you and I were classmates in high school, who are you in class? Are you the back of the class, front of the class, always with books, or with friends? The reciter, the competitive one. Who are you in high school?
Right. It's funny that you say that I might it's a little bit impossible for me to be the introverted one because coming into high school I was very shy, which is surprising to many people. I know, right? Woo,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
I used to be very shy, very kept to myself in the sense that I wasn't so outspoken or I wasn't who I am now. I was very different. I was shy. I was just so afraid of being myself around my classmates. I went to an all-girls school. So, you know how girls can be, especially in high school. Girls are very judgmental. I mean, I won't even sugarcoat or fake it. I was very judgmental as well. But it took a while for me to come out of my shell.
Okay.
Eventually I became the girl in the middle of the class. So I wasn't all like super focused, but I also wasn't in the back where I wasn't like not listening at all. So I was the type of person in high school. We'd be friends, probably we'd be really good friends, but we wouldn't be in the same group because I never really had like, you know how in high school people form barcadas. That was an insecurity of mine. I never had a group I could call myself a part of. I was friends with a lot of people though. I would jump from friend group to friend group, but I did have a constant best friend. Although, yun nga, I never had like a barkada to so to speak. But I did have a lot of friends, and I'd like to think that I was a very social butterfly. I had friends from very, very different groups, from the quote unquote popular group to the quote unquote more shy people in our batch. So that's the kind of person I was in high school. And when it comes to studies, I guess like you could say there were some classes where like nobody would recite, but I would be like, okay, my turn, please call me. And our prof or our teacher would just be like, oh my God, anyone else? Yeah, there were a few classes where it was like that. So that was me in high school.
Interesting. I gotta ask though, in my understanding of how you meant social butterfly and introvertedness, how would you classify yourself as a form of the introverted, extroverted, inverted? Which category would you classify yourself as? Oh, sorry, ambivert. I said inverted, but yeah.
Well, definitely back in high school up until college, I was definitely an extrovert. I don't think I was an introvert in any of those times. Maybe when I was a baby, like a kid, I was super introverted. I was afraid of people in general, especially boys back then. But now I'm very extroverted. But I guess like ever since lockdown, I'd consider myself an ambivert. Like I don't really mind being alone at all, but I also don't mind being around people.
Really interesting, fascinating. I noticed that you've unboxed speech communication, tennis, and content creation. We're gonna unbox all these Pandora's box, and
All right,
really
awesome.
fascinating. Oh, I forgot to add on my list is of course radio DJing, which is already part of speech
Right.
communication. Let's talk about that later on. First of all, tennis. When did that start? What's the story there?
Oh, well, when I was younger, like childhood, I used to take workshops on everything. And by everything, I mean sports, cooking, theater, music. I used to do so many things, public speaking, even all those kinds of things. I used to take workshops. But when it came to sports, I started out swimming at 2 years old. I was very young when I started venturing out in sports. So I swam all the way until I was 9 years old.
Oh wow!
I also yeah.
The thought in my head was like
I
you swam Pacific Ocean from there to 9 years old. Must have been a journey. That would have been a journey.
It was. That would have been cool. I would be a legend by now if that was the case. Unfortunately, no. I was just swimming in a pool. But yeah, I did take swimming. I did train for swimming for like 7 years. I did badminton sometime in between. But eventually one day where I was training for swimming they built tennis courts, and my mom was like, do you want to try it out? Because at that point I was kind of getting a little sick of swimming, the same laps every time. So I was like, you know what, let's do it. So at 9 years old, I started playing tennis. That's when I stopped swimming. And I just fell in love with the sport. So I continued training. I became varsity in high school.
Wow.
And then I got injured on my last year, like my
Oh.
last playing year. I tore my ACL during the first ever competition on my fourth year, the year that I was co-captain. I tore my ACL on the first competition, and I couldn't play during my entire senior year, which was absolutely heartbreaking to say the least. Like, it was very heartbreaking. I thought, if you tear your ACL completely, so the ACL is in your knee, right?
Yeah.
It means that, your competitive playing years are over. So I really thought that, I wouldn't be able to play tennis again the way that I hoped to. So coming into college in UP, I wasn't really expecting to get into the tennis team. Like I mentioned earlier, I wasn't the varsity team. So there's this one day, let me explain. Like in UP, you're required to take 4 units or 4 PE classes throughout your entire college life.
Okay.
And I did not want to do that. So you can take this proficiency exam that if you pass it, that removes 1 PE. So obviously, naturally, I did the tennis proficiency exam. And luckily, like by some fate just worked its way. And the person who was handling the proficiency exam for tennis was the coach of the women's tennis team. And this is like one of my favorite stories to tell. So I was in the bathroom, I was changing my clothes, and I heard someone say, "Uy, yung naka-black may potential, ha?" And then I was like, I looked at my shirt and I was like, oh my God, I'm wearing black. That must have been me. And then, oh my God, when I went out, the tennis coach of the women's team goes up to me and says, "Hey, are you a freshman?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going into my second year." And then sabi niya, "Oh, kasi I'm recruiting people for the women's team. Do you want to? And I think you have potential. So, you should train with us if you want to." And I said, "Oh my God, are you serious?" I was like, and I said, "Coach, the thing is, my ACL is torn, and I haven't played in forever, so I don't know if I'm cut out for the team." He just said, "Train with us and we'll just work with it." And that is like when I said, wow, this guy believes in me, and he gave me a shot even if I thought that I would never play tennis again. And it was just such a journey. Like I never, obviously, like I acknowledge that I wasn't the best in the team. And I had a lot of work to do talaga, but just the experience of training with a college team was so amazing. Was just it definitely was a highlight of my college life. And I just want to take this time to give my thanks to Coach Ariel. He actually passed on very recently, and this man has been like a father figure throughout my entire college life, and I really have so much love and respect for him.
Wow. I mean, I've been taken back by that. I'm sorry. I was a bit taken. I had to take a deep breath because the story is powerful. I mean, I love the story, and I felt like I was there in the moment with you. And although, yeah, I don't look like I don't look like a guy from UP, but yeah, I was there mentally. One thing, one thing you mentioned when you said torn ACL, it took me back to this documentary. Lately, I've been watching a lot of documentary. There's actually 2 TV shows that that hit me when you mentioned sports, and you mentioned swimming, and tennis. The first thing that hit my head was Queen's Gambit. I'm sure you've seen the Netflix thing. Had a coach and everything, and dominated, and it's pretty phenomenal. For those who are tuning in, if you haven't seen Queen's Gambit, you need to buy Netflix, or you guys can watch it legally. I don't really promote any of that stuff, so yeah, you guys do what you want to do, but you gotta watch it somehow. You gotta watch it somehow. And there's also this documentary that I remember watching about Tiger Woods. So when you mention when you mentioned torn ACL, the, Tiger Woods in his documentary Tiger. I don't know if it was the second half because it was a two-part series that was released in HBO or something, where
Okay.
I think there was a second half where he was working. He was uh, before a game. He was going under military training for some reason, and then during the military training, I think he tore his ACL. So, but he still had to play the PGA
Oh,
Tour. And I think in terms of the the physical the attributes for a positive swing. I'm not a golfer, but I've been watching a lot of golf lately after that documentary. Is that you need the whole body exerts the energy, and
right.
I think the knees need to stabilize, the grounding needs to be stabilized in order to hit the ball in the certain direction. So he played the game with a torn ACL, and I think he also won that PGA championship. Or I don't know if it was
Wow.
PGA, but it was a tournament for sure. It went up to the point
Right.
that his caddy, his former caddy, even told him, "Are you sure that you can? Are you sure you can sing? It's better to call it quits and stuff like that." And Tiger, like Michael Jordan and all these guys said, of course, with language, he said, no, I gotta finish this thing, and he finished, and he still dominated. And yeah, but you should check that out also, folks. If you're also tuning in, check out that documentary Tiger. Like I said, illegal, legal, I don't know how you guys gonna do it, but check it out. It's actually worth the watch. It's worth the watch.
All
And
right.
tremendous respect to your ability. I gotta ask though, in tennis, this is one curious question. I'm sure in swimming, there is some sort of training. You're supposed to train a certain body part, work out a certain body part in order to achieve. Was there a certain transition? I know this must be a stupid question or a thing, but when you were training for swimming, did you have a particular workout with someone, a physical therapist or someone? And then the moment you switch from swimming to tennis, you had to switch your entire routine and everything, nutrition, everything. I gotta ask.
Oh my god. I am the worst person to ask about health because uh, when I was swimming, it was more of a hobby rather than something I took super seriously.
Hmm.
So, yeah, when I was training for swimming, I wasn't too strict about it.
Hmm.
When I was training for tennis too, when I was just starting out, I also wasn't too strict about it. I train every weekend starting out
Hmm.
until I became part of a tennis team. So, like outside of tennis, I would work out a little bit.
Hmm.
But in terms of health, nutrition, bruh, I don't even eat vegetables. So I am the worst person to ask about those kinds of things. So in terms of like change in nutrition or those types of things, there was none because I don't think I even had like a proper nutritional. I don't think up to now I have a proper nutritional diet, but I do work out. When I started training, especially for college,
Yeah.
I had specific workouts that I had to do outside of training just to strengthen and gain more power, I guess,
Yeah.
in certain parts of the body that I needed for tennis. And I also had to do extra, workouts for my legs, especially because my ACL
Hmm.
still is torn, like my heart, joke lang. But yeah, I really did need to strengthen my knee, which meant a lot of extra training and workouts for the leg day.
I had to follow up on the question on when you were heading off to college, and I'm trying to imagine the idea of actually a torn ACL. Is it like
Right.
once you got the thing, it's like a forever pain on that particular leg when you press towards the ground? Is that the pain that
No,
you feel?
no. For me, no. Um, when I first tore my ACL, I heard a snap. I heard like a click on my knee, right?
Huh.
And I couldn't stand up afterwards.
Ouch.
And as I was doing therapy, you know, it was more of like to strengthen the muscles around it, because a torn ACL is forever torn unless you get surgery, which my doctor at the time advised against if I still wanted to play, she said.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. uh in the early stages of having the ACL torn, you
Huh.
won't be able to straighten your leg. So I wasn't able to
Wow.
straighten my leg for like 6 months. I had to wear this brace on my knee every day.
Huh.
And imagine, okay, I was in high school, fourth year when this happened, and the classroom for fourth year is 3 flights up
Oh
in my
boy.
school, in my high school. So it was hell. Like, I had to have somebody help me carry my bag and everything to the classroom during recess and lunch. I wouldn't even leave the classroom anymore because our canteen was so far away. So I just like eat in the classroom. And yeah, luckily my teachers at the time allowed that.
Huh.
And yeah, it was tough. Although now there's no pain, but
Huh.
it's a lot of extra care for your knee, because like when I do play tennis, I can't run as
Yeah.
fast as I did before. I can't move the way I did before because there's always a possibility of injuring it. Like, there are times when I just sit down
Mm.
and suddenly, like when I put my leg in the wrong position,
Mm.
I can't straighten it afterwards, and then I just have to do a
Ah.
couple of exercises. Usually that lasts for like 2 days at most, and eventually I get to straighten it again. But you know what I mean? It's very limiting
Yeah.
also.
Uh, an additional question to that: which knee was that? The right or the left?
It was my left knee.
Oh. Oh, okay. Interesting. Um, coming back into the conversation, I gotta ask a follow-up question.
All right.
Endurance. I'm sure, like sports, like the other stuff that you mentioned,
Right.
speech, communication, content creation, you gotta endure. There's a certain thing. Is there any certain philosophy about endurance that you've learned from tennis and from swimming and the other sports that you've ventured out that taught you a lesson transitioning into your professional life?
Okay. I think a good lesson that I learned, especially from training, would be um there's so many things that I learned, but I guess one thing that sticks out would be to just keep fighting. You know, with training, we had a lot of things to do. There was this time where we had to run up uh like these stairs in UP,
Hmm.
the stairs in one of the buildings right across Palma Hall, which is the ever so famous building. Right across that, it's a very identical building. So the
Hmm.
stairs are very low. We had to run that 10 reps, 10 sets each. So I counted it, it was
Cardio.
almost 1,000 steps in total. Yeah, so we had to do that. And it was so exhausting.
Hmm.
And every other training, there would be times when we'd miss a shot in tennis. And if we miss it, we'd have to do push ups. That was our punishment, those kinds of things. And it was exhausting. It makes you want to give up. It makes you wonder, can I still do this?
Hmm.
And a lot of times I told myself, I don't think I can. But the people around me, they believed, and they'd always cheer me on, and they said, go Ree, keep fighting. And I guess I can apply that to everything I do in my life. You know, there are moments where, whether it's professionally or personally, there are moments where things happen and you kind of just want to give up and stop and just have the world stop, your world stop, you know?
Hmm.
But the reminder is to just keep fighting and to continue to go through, like, you know, the pain, everything. You know what they say, everything in life is temporary, but you really have to keep going if you want to keep getting better.
Interesting. Interesting. Wow, it's a very, very powerful first half of this conversation. Before we wrap the first half of this conversation, you've taken me to UP. You've taken me to an amazing story. Now, I want to be inspired just to wrap the first half of this conversation because we're going to talk about a lot of stuff on the second half. Is there any
Okay.
powerful Ria Ramz quote that you use when you wake up and say, "Hey, I'm going to conquer the day today"? Is there a particular quote that you live by almost every day that is yours?
Um, for sure, I have a lot of like life quotes. One is be who you're meant to be and have that be enough. That's actually inspired by my favorite book, which is called All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. And yeah, I have that tattooed on my arm as a reminder that I just have to be who I'm meant to be and have that be enough. And once you're content with who you are, then
Hmm.
you can face every day with a smile on your face, for sure, for sure.
Powerful,
And
powerful.
I guess like one other thing that I live by, again, this isn't my own quote, but it's so powerful to me, would be um, if you see something beautiful in someone or something, speak it. A lot of people always tend to be afraid to tell someone or to tell someone if they like something about them. But it's so natural to me. It's something that I love to do. Like even if we're not that close and I see your work and I like it, if I think you look good, and I'm gonna tell you talaga, because you never know how much it's gonna mean to someone and how much they need to hear it at that moment in time. So if you guys are holding back on telling somebody how much they mean to you, or if you see something beautiful in someone, just say it. Like, what do you have to lose? Nothing.
That's funny. I could relate to that the moment I saw you on my first TikTok algorithm thing. Thank you, algorithm.
Right? And I
Yeah.
guess like one last quote that I live by is something that somebody very special to me said to me. He
Hmm.
said, "The world is a better place with you in it." And I guess that speaks for itself.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful. Before we head into our mid roll break, do you want to do some more shout outs? It looks like you have a lot of shout outs after what you said.
Yeah, I just want to say what's up to my mom, my dad, of course. They've been supporting me since day one. And I literally would, not literally and figuratively, not be here if it weren't for the love that they have for me. Like, they are the pure embodiment of love in my life. I also want to say what's up to my cousin, aka my big brother, to Job. Hello, also, of course, to my boyfriend, to Josh. He's actually the one who told me that last bit.
I figured. I figured. All right, folks. We'll just be right back right after these few short messages.
Your Unfiltered Tagalog Wrestling Podcast every week is now Pipe Network. Catch the MTG Show podcast every Friday on your favorite podcast platforms. And remember, stay safe and stay wrestle.
Hey, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Rajiv Show, and of course, the first half of this conversation. We had an amazing, phenomenal conversationalist here, which is Ria Ramirez, and of course, her story is so powerful. Um, it blew my mind away. I mean, I had a lot of questions, but let's take out the all these emotional context that makes us cry, and let's go to the DJ booth for once. Let's go to the DJ booth, and let's go on to Radio X. And folks, we're here on Radio X, ladies and gentlemen, and the host is here, and she's got some opening lines. DJ Rhea, take us out. I hope I said that right. Yeah.
Okay, what's up? What's up, you guys? Welcome to Monster RX 93.1, and of course, your favorite as requested by our lovely host here today, he wants me to do this.
Woo! That should be an iconic thing. That should be made in a shirt, and your face, and then the icon thing. I mean, since I'm an illustrator, who knows? I may make that happen, but I need to learn how to spell
Ooh,
dra.
I love it.
I don't know how to spell dra, so yeah, just figure out that part later. So
Okay.
we have transitioned now. The conversation has transitioned from sports, and now we're gonna get into content creation and speech communication. Like I said, we had firsthand experience, folks. I'm sure you've heard the phenomenal voice and the experience of being in a radio DJ booth. Um, how does it feel? What is the feeling that you get once you start work with when you found out that speech communication is your thing? I gotta ask. It's an interesting one though.
Yeah, I've always been into communications, but I was never the type of person who knew exactly what I was meant to do and where I was meant to be. I actually was interested in psychology, am still interested in psychology, but life took me towards the direction of speech communication. And I was actually supposed to shift out after my first year because I really wanted to pursue psychology at the time. But after my first year, I really fell in love with my course because speech communication, as much as it has the word speech in it, it's not only about speaking. It's not only about performance. It's a lot about analyzing your day-to-day conversations and communication with people. And I think that's such a vital part of life in general. Like, communication seems like such a simple thing, yet people fail at it every single day. And to be able to study it, to be able to have an insight on the way, relationships are, the way relationships are formed, the way people speak, whether it's interpersonally, intrapersonally, group communication, publicly. It's so interesting because it's so much more complex than people think. And that was like being there and just understanding all of that. It was so nice because I thought to myself, like, wow, I am in love with what I'm studying, and it's so rare to have that. You know what I mean? To actually really like what you're studying, I think was a huge part of my growth also into the communicator, so to speak, that I am right now.
I mean, the way I hear it, it's like you've kind of taken two birds in one stone. Although the way the vision was for me, I kind of mapped out the vision and how you were thinking. Is that when you said you wanted to study psychology, it was like one piece of the entire pie. And then when you jumped into
exactly.
When you jumped into speech communication, you got psychology, you got philosophy, you got the art of negotiation. You got almost all
That's
the
crazy.
thing, the whole
That's
catalyst of
crazy.
thing. Yeah, and
It's crazy how you encapsulated all of it. Yeah, it's exactly that. That's correct.
And the one thing about this is the beautiful thing about this is in research, of course, research. I respect the researchers and what they do is that
Right.
they gather information from data on the past. They build on what happened in 1960s and all that stuff, and some of it somehow deteriorates over time. But here in what you're doing in speech communication is you have real live data in front of your face, and the moment it updates, the moment you can still see it happening, and it's really 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 fascinating. I mean, it is lovely. I mean, I don't know how to put that into context, but it's a lovely way of enjoying a topic that you do, and with that in mind, you've taken it to the radio, which is really powerful in itself. So at least that sense of your connecting your personality in the earlier conversation, bringing in that energy, that vibe, which you've kind of brought that vibe here on the show, and you really mix that with the knowledge and the philosophies and everything that you've added. It's really is really phenomenal. uh,
Thank
Phenomenally
you.
interesting. I mean, I say interesting a lot, but I hope I haven't overdued phenomenal, because interesting is one of my um, quotations that people know me by. And content creation. Let's talk about that. I can relate to that. Prior to swimming, I earlier on I had a phobia about that. I tried it, and then there were times that I actually made it happen. And I don't know how to. I'm not good in tennis, so I couldn't relate. I was just basically waiting for
Right.
a peace of mind where I could actually share something. Content creation is the thing that I could only connect here. uh, Aside from, of course,
Yeah.
music, which as I know you DJ, so I'm sure you love a lot of music, and that that's
Yes.
that's something else that we're gonna talk about. If we talk about that, we probably take an entire season to just talk about music in general. But here, content creation. Before I share my insights, I want to know when did the content creation become one of your most powerful tool of expression?
um, huh. Actually, I used to post a lot ever since, but to really become like a content creator where people actually, where my voice felt really heard was only when I joined TikTok.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I joined it. I was hesitant, like most people, like, oh, TikTok for the youngins. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But I enjoyed it. And suddenly, after I posted one video where somebody asked me to insert the word
Yes, I
supercalifragilisticexpialidocious
saw
on
that.
air, it blew up. Yeah, it blew up, and from there on, the trajectory of my TikTok followers and content, it just went up. And I said, you know what, if it brings a smile to the faces of people, then I'm all for it. And yeah, I guess like that's when I started sometime in the pandemic, actually, because I've been meaning to start with it, like not exactly TikTok, but vlogging.
Mm,
And I got to start with that during the pandemic. And yeah, like just to hear that somehow, some way, even if I'm even if it's just a few people, knowing that I'm able to touch a few people's lives and kind of just put a smile on their faces day to day, it means a lot to me. And that's what I love about content creation, other than of course the fact that I'm able to share my opinions and hopefully influence people to do better and to grow and to think about certain things.
yeah.
Um it's it's just important to me to be able to kind of put a smile in the faces of people, and that's what I love about it.
It's funny when you mentioned that TikTok wasn't really your jam, and then it became the jam of all jams.
Yeah.
It's really really fascinating, because for me, earlier on, doing content, um, I'm coming from an background of arts. I'm a fresh graduate of music, but majority of my skill set that I've developed over the period of years is more on arts. So the work ethic,
Ooh.
everything that I do is like, once I started out, I was fascinated with the movies. Early 2000 kids, if there are guys tuning in, shout out to you guys. The first Spider-Man, once the first Spider-Man hit the scenes, and from then on out, I got into the strange fascination for comics. And um, there's a particular year in my life called the lost years, where literally studied comic book artists. And even till today, from time to time, I look at 90s art, and I could distinguish which is the golden era, which is. And and of course, my love for comics
Wow.
will never die. And
That's crazy. That's awesome.
yeah, with my work ethic that I've developed through that practice, I've kind of taken that over and spilt it towards content creation. I'm not the brightest looking makeup guy that you could see. I don't put 10,000 powders of foundation on my face and stuff like that. So when I started out, I've always wanted to start it, vlogging, documenting. Actually, it was mentioned by my mentor. You need to start creating stuff. Creating document your life and stuff like that. This was pre-pandemic. This was a year prior to the pandemic. It was been in the back of my head. It was just that I have these certain insecurities, which is normally an artist kind of thing. It's like those overthinking whatnots, which is really hard to break once you start practicing that when you're creating your craft. I'm sure you could relate sometimes.
For sure. Yeah.
And once you take that leap, sometimes the leap is on the wrong time in the wrong place. And then once I started the show, I started out podcasting. I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed sharing. I enjoy sharing stuff. I enjoy sharing content. The first time I really did a podcast, I didn't even know what podcast was, so I just did something and then I got it out, and then I left it for some time, and then I came back into it, and then I started listening to podcasts, and I realized, oh, this is the value that and then the learning just flew. It had its own flow, as Bruce Lee says, it's got its own flow, and it led me to that.
Right.
It led me to that idea that okay, I developed the craft, and over the years, my work ethic. I remember earlier on, I don't know if I've shared this in any of my podcast episodes, but I used to pre-record my content. When I was recording season 1 and season 2, I used to record it on my phone. This is a funny story. Oh, I don't think I
Oh
remember sharing
wow.
this. This is, I think, the first time I'm sharing this on my episode here with the legendary Ria. And I remember when earlier on, I used to pre-record on my phone. I live near the highway, so the phone that I had is this Oppo, very sensitive microphone. So even if someone farts 5 miles away, my phone can still capture it strangely once you're listening to it in thing. And that's how weird it is. So earlier on, when I used to pre-record my content, I pre-record it at night so that all the animals are asleep, everybody is asleep, and then of course, um, once I start recording, I get into a certain groove. At that time, I never knew anything about editing. I never knew anything about polishing, any of these crazy stuff. So what I used to do was, I used to record everything, and then I'm sure you and I know the 5 second, 10 second rule is that once you transition into another segment or another episode or something like that, you have an allowance of 5 seconds, 10 seconds of silence so that it will be a smooth transition. It's not like you can talk and then suddenly cut that off and then get into the next conversation. There's like a certain let go period. For me, I had to learn that on the spot. So there's 5 second, 10 second. I had to learn that stuff.
Right.
And then it's so ironic because we have like animals here near the area. Right after my 5 second, 10 seconds, I don't know if my animals have like a strategic plan, and they have an early morning meeting where they talk about, okay, this guy's gonna record at this time. Let's cut him off. Let's do this, and all the animals start. Just as I finished the
Oh
first
no.
yes episode. Yeah, this is the funny thing. Right after I finished the first episode, just as about to finish that 5 10 second, I got the groove and everything. The cats and dogs and snakes and animals and elephants and any animal that you could see, they just come in and then they ruin the entire take. imagine my
Oh
imagine my
man.
thing.
Oh man.
Like I said, I didn't even know editing was a thing until I learned how to
Right.
dabble with Audacity. But the funny part about that was, I had to my earlier episodes. I had to go back to the beginning. I had to go back from point A. Once I finish it to point Z, I have to go back to point A and start from scratch. And
Right. Right.
it was really crazy. It was crazy, but the journey became even more fun once I started investing, and it's a good thing. It's a good idea to start investing and developing your craft. You gotta invest in your craft itself. You need to invest in your tools. So my first instinct, the
For
first
sure.
time I tested out my gadget and my stuff here, the first time I heard a dog shouted from like I said, from China or somewhere, my automatic response is I could hear it from my monitor, from my headset. But when I heard it on the mic, it was not there, and I was like, okay, I've upgraded. I've
Thank
reached
you.
I've reached level 2 or level 5 or wherever I was going, and
For sure, for
it's
sure.
been a fun thing, and my hopes for the Rajiv show is just that overall development of just improving and improving, and each time that I do my thing, I still incorporate, like I said earlier on, I incorporate my work ethic in terms of the things that I do. Sometimes when things don't go my way, I have to figure it out, like certain software, certain app doesn't work at a specific timeline, you know. I have to find a way to
Right,
make sure that that happens because it's part of the work ethic and stuff like that. But yeah, that's my
right.
experience in content creation. And of course, once I made the oath to go to TikTok, and I keep saying, I think I've said this already 3 or 4 times, algorithm showed up, and I was I saw your content. I was like, wow, this is a phenomenal. And yeah, from then on out, I I gotta admire the fact that every time I wanted to share this, actually, I gotta admire that when every time I get a notification on my phone that Ria Ramz invites you to watch her live, it's like, oh, that's like an ordinary ticket, like the golden ticket. Oh, come on.
Oh my. Oh, that is so sweet. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like every time I was like, oh man, stop making me blush, girl. Damn. I get a golden
I
invite.
appreciate that.
So yeah, that's
I
my
appreciate
experience.
it. Thank you so much.
That's my
Thank
experience in
you. Thank you.
creation. And yeah, uh I'm happy, and I'm glad that you have at least said yes to this conversation, because this week, these past 2 weeks, including this week, has been phenomenal. Prior to the recording, folks, what I'm saying is, during the recording of this episode, I've had like an amazing conversation with amazing legends and catch ups and whatnot. So I'm loving the momentum. Hopefully, so that's my piece. That's my TED talk.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome, and it's great to see that you've grown also as a content creator. It's really like, I mean, you didn't even know that it was your thing, right? So that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm happy that you found your niche.
Yeah. Speaking of niche, that's like another conversation. I had a phenomenal conversation about niche. I'm not really I'm more of a general guy, to be honest, than a niche type of person.
Right.
I gotta
Right.
share this though, because um if you were to ask me the things that I like, it's very hard to it's very hard to specify it. If you were to ask me what type of music you like, or what type of art you like, or what type of food you like, for that matter, it's kind of very hard for me to answer. And with regards to the content that I'm
Right. I get
creating,
that.
when it comes to the content that I'm creating, like podcast, with the show, with the growth of the show, which I'm happy to share here with you, is that I'm looking forward to wherever the show can take me, basically, because um, when I really enjoy what I do enjoy the most in doing is somehow giving me that sense of accomplishment in one way, and in one way or the other,
Right.
it, it has that sense of mixing and matching. So I'm not really that niche type of person, because if you've seen the Rajiv show on YouTube, it's of course I send out the Rajiv show podcast audio stuff there as well. But I also do trailer reactions because I'm a major cinephile, and I love, like I've mentioned earlier, I've seen documentaries and movies and stuff like that. And I love to do trailer reactions. I used to do trailer reactions earlier on, but now with the workload coming in, in heavy load, I've kind of put that on hold. And also, as an illustrator, I've
Right.
fallen in love with vector art, which is hopefully, wink wink, probably after this recording we might talk about but yeah.
Right. Right. Of course.
So those are the stuff I love mixing and matching, and the show's growth is based on a conglomerate of, I don't know if I said it right, a conglomerate of majorities of things that I do, that adds into into this huge umbrella. So putting things into niche is kind of like very weird for me. But yeah, I do enjoy it. I do enjoy. Sometimes this might sound weird, but it's much more fun to be confused than it is to not be confused. I don't know if it makes sense, but to me it does.
Huh.
So
I get
yeah.
that though. I mean, it's nice to it. It really is nice to kind of explore other things, and I mean, personally, I was never, like I said earlier, I wasn't the type to really have a path. Like, it's funny that you mentioned that you didn't even know you were into recording podcasts until you got into it, because I was the same with the radio. When I auditioned to become a student jock on Monster,
Hmm.
I did it just because like people said you should do it. I mean, you're talkative and whatnot. So I said okay. And I wasn't really like someone who ever thought, I never thought I would end up in radio. But the
Interesting.
moment I started it, I fell in love with it. And I found out like, hey, I'm kind of good at this. So
Yeah.
might as well keep going at it and keep growing at it. So that's what I did, and here I am now, from student jock to official Monster Radio DJ.
Wow. Legend. I've got. I mean, I've got. I'm really. For me to reach this certain level of guest list that I've had and conversations that I've had. I mean, it's a huge thing for me. Uh, I to me personally, I gotta admit that reaching a 56 episode on a one season and having a Wednesday release for the entire 2021 is like this is big for me, to be honest. This is like beyond my imagination, and like having guests. It's
Yeah,
it's just it's just so surreal for me personally.
that's awesome. Congratulations.
Cheers.
Congratulations.
Cheers. Thank you so much. Anyway, to wrap up this conversation, because it's tearing me up, and it's like it's an amazing conversation in a good way. It's tearing me up in a good way. Of course, with my listeners, they would love to connect with you. Probably want to ask you tips on how to become a DJ. How would they connect with you via social media?
You guys can follow me everywhere at Ria Ramz. I do have an Instagram, a TikTok, and a YouTube channel. It's Ria Ramz. That's RIARAMZ. So I hope you guys could follow me over there.
Yeah. Don't worry, she doesn't bite. Tested and proven.
I'm nice. I'm nice.
So yeah, I want to thank you for being a part of this conversation, and thank you so much for the honorary golden ticket of inviting me to watch your live from time to time. Um,
Yes,
from-
thank you also for having me.
and hopefully somewhere down the line, I'd love to have you back on the show. Probably if you're free, we could have like the whole. I used to have a series, a live series. Probably by now would be be revive. I'm looking to also have like a live conversation with anyone on Facebook. So yeah, I'm looking forward to
All
have
right.
future collaborations with you down the line, and I'm so
So,
grateful for you dropping by to the Rajiv show. Thank you so much.
yeah.
And
Thank
yeah,
you.
and for those who are tuning in, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you took down notes. And if you always want to request, like how I requested, just message my guest. I swear it. Uh, I- that should be my ringtone, but to be honest, but yeah, I want to say thank you for those who are tuning in and supporting. And with that in mind, cheers, folks, and I will see you in the next episode. Cheers.